let's create one more component, which is going to be a header component. So what we want is on the top here, we want a header that displays our application name, that is movie browser, followed by an HTML text box, which allows us to search for any movies that we want. So to do so, let's go back to the command prompt. I'm going to issue a command here called ngGC, G for generate, C for components, components/header, and it's going to create a new folder called header under components, which is under app, with 4 files in it: a CSS, an HTML, a test spec file, and another component class file. So let's go create the same thing. This also updates our app module TS. Let's go and have a look at what is the change in the app module TS first. So if I go to the app module TS, you will see that in the declaration section, it has added the header component. And the header component TS is just an empty class file here, and it has a selector called app header, and that represents a header HTML over here. So I can go to my app component HTML, and somewhere in the beginning I can add here app-header/app/header, and that's going to bring the header on top of your home component. Let's go to the HTML of the same. So I'm going to go and say header HTML, and you can see that I'm typing partial characters and it's actually getting the same thing. Let's get rid of this. Let's say we want a blue color background for this. We can make use of something called alert-info. If you want other colors, apart from info, you have success, you have primary, secondary, warning, and danger. So to give different colors, you can experiment the same thing. So I'm going to leave this as info. That contains another div with a class of container. Let's press enter and see what happens. So we have a div with a container, and as you have seen in the past, container simply adds a margin on the left and right side of your div. So inside this, I'm going to have an allocation of something like, for example, let's say my div starts from here. From here till here, I want to limit myself for the header. And right next to this, I want the text box. So probably we know that this is already a grid 4 here. And the remaining 8, I can leave that for the text box. So to do so, let's go back here and type .row greater than .call. I can say md4. And then I can add one more plus .call-md-8. So that's going to be a parent row div consisting of 2 child divs. So if I press enter, you can see that it's going to come like that. And the first one, I'm simply going to have here just like a H3 probably. I can have H1, H2, whatever I want. And then I type here movie browser. Later, we will also add a logo instead of a text, but at this time, I think this is okay. And then this is where I want to have an HTML form consisting of an input of type text, nothing else. You can also say that the class name here is going to be form control. So the class name form control comes from Bootstrap, and that actually makes this text box nice looking text box. So I'm going to press enter. We have a form. Action is not required. We'll come back and work with the form later. But for now, we simply add a form. We have an input, type is equal to text. Name is, let's say, for example, I'll call it as, say, query term. ID is not really required because we're not using any jQuery or anything like that. So I don't need the ID. Class is fine. We'll also add a couple of things like, for example, I want this to bring the cursor automatically. So I can say here autofocus equals to autofocus, or you can just leave that as it is because it's a pseudo attribute. One more thing we'll also provide is a placeholder. We'll say search movies, probably by title or something like that. Let's go back and see how this application looks like now. Let's go to here, and you can see that we have a movie browser, a title. This is going to be our link to homepage eventually. There's a search movies. I should be able to type in the text that I'm looking for and then press enter, and this should work. On Chrome, you can press F12. Mac OS users, you can press Option Command I. to go to the developer console. And here we have the toggle device toolbar. If I click on that, it's going to switch to iPhone, and on an iPhone or a mobile device, this is how it's going to look like. So movie browser, and you can see that there is a search movies text box where I should be able to type something, press enter, and we want that movie to be displayed over here.